Hi.
Hi, we're on page 262 of In Search of Christian Freedom. Ray Franz takes us back to Lloyd Barry on the issue of what constitutes compromise. Referring again to Lloyd Barry's memorandum, he also stated, quote, "In this, the issue is not taxation, employment, etc., but compromise. We are agreed that we should not take up arms for the military. Then we should be agreed, too, that if the military or any other agency asks us to do something as a substitute, therefore, we do not accept the alternative. That is our action. Then, if we are handed over to a court and a judge sentences us, that is his action. We accept the sentence. We have not compromised. We are integrity keepers." It is as simple as all that. And then Lloyd Barry cites Job 27 verse 5, and we'll have more to say on that in a few minutes.
Yet, along with most other witnesses, many of the branch committee members themselves did not find the stated position by any means simple. They saw no logic in the position that it would be wrong to accept a work order from a draft board, but all right to accept the identical order to do the identical work under the identical circumstances if that order was given by a court. They could not see how this could be so, inasmuch as these agencies are all simply branches of the same government, of the same superior authority. Thus the Chilean branch committee pointed out some of the inconsistencies, saying, quote, "If the work itself does not contribute toward the military objective, does it matter what agency orders that it be accepted? Here in Chile, it is not clear just how independent courts are. This is a military government, and many of the civilians who serve in the cabinet are just showpieces. The military runs the show. It is all just one system."
From communist Poland came this expression, quote, "As far as we know, the German brothers take up such work upon the basis that the administrative authorities direct them to the work and not the military. Would this mean that they would not take up the same work under the same conditions if the military authorities would direct them to do it? Is it not the same Caesar?"
In a very lengthy letter, the Canadian branch committee focused especially on this point, referring to the existing policy as a confusing agency approach. They said, quote, "We feel that officials would find it hard to see where we draw the line. We would complicate matters for them, and for the brothers as well. If, for example, we tried to make a point of the draft board or induction center being a part of the political setup, and that we are neutral in matters of politics, they would wonder why the courts are not also viewed as an arm of the same governmental political setup. On the other hand, if we try to make it a matter of agency being a part of the military setup, and argue our neutrality from that point of view, they might concede that they appreciate our desire to have nothing to do with the military. But if the actual work assigned is the same, regardless of the agency involved, then what's the difference? We would find that a problem to argue successfully. Today, courts, councils, police, induction centers, and the military are all manifestations of Caesar's authority. All are, in one way or another, his agencies.
The matter seemed summed up in this simple question from the Nigerian branch committee. Quote, "If something is wrong scripturally, then why should a court order make it all right to do it?" Ray concludes, the questions themselves illustrate how the organization's policies have led to technical complexities as well as to confusion on the part of men sincerely seeking to be guided by God's own word. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't help but note when Lloyd Barry cites Job 27:5, how totally this idea of integrity keeping flies in the face of the application they're making of it here. But why don't we read the text first, just to remind ourselves?
Okay. It is unthinkable on my part that I should declare you men righteous. Until I expire, I shall not take away my integrity from myself. That's Job speaking.
And we often hear that, or other texts where Job talks about his integrity keeping as examples for us in the Jehovah's Witnesses in the 20th and 21st centuries. But when you're a Jehovah's Witness, you don't read the entire book of Job.
I don't think I ever read the whole book of Job when I was a Jehovah's Witness. So when we left, and that was one of the first books we started to look at, I had more than just this problem. I had lots of problems that were surfaced from reading it in context.
So what's wrong with Lloyd Barry linking integrity keeping to following your orders and, and listening to society? If
you had these men in that Job was talking to, it's his friends. If you just replace that with I'm Job, and the Watchtower headquarters is these other men,
the elders.
Yeah. Job doesn't listen to the other men. He doesn't listen to the organization. He says, you're wrong. I haven't done anything wrong, and I'm going to stick with what I believe. And in the end, God actually says Job spoke the truth about me. So I mean, Job was he was fighting man. I mean, he said not only would he challenge them about this, he would challenge God.
Yeah. He was willing to argue with God himself. He was demanding an audience at certain points in the dialogue, right? And so he's standing on the authority of his own conscience.
Yeah, and God respects that.
And God says at the end, my servant Job has spoken the truth concerning me, whereas you haven't. Now you have to depend on him for your good standing with me. He will have to offer a sacrifice for you. So in the case of Job, the status quo, the orthodox theology of the land of Uz doesn't do it. And I think if there's any book in the Bible that makes it clear what ultimately our righteousness stands upon, our own conscience, God-trained conscience, is ultimately the test. The book of Job is that book. That it is right for us to challenge all authority if that authority stands against what our conscience says and what Scripture says, and even what reason says. The three authentic sources of authority that are God-given are reason, conscience, and especially Scripture. And the brothers, it's very clear around the world we're having a problem resolving this issue with those three authorities.
Yeah, I think the Nigerian brothers got it succinctly in just that one question. If it's scripturally wrong, who does it matter who tells you to do something, and you say, well, as long as it's the court and not the military? Aren't they all of the same group? Like, so why would I do something unscriptural because the court demanded it?
And the answer is, we say so.
Yeah.
In the next segment, the extremes that the organization's concept could and did lead to.